You're being a math teacher's training this morning. Didn't have to say a word to any of y'all to get out math. Y'all were doing math for the 8:15 bill. I appreciate that. You can have 5 points already. Okay, today is supposed to be a nice day because we're just going to get to do matrix multiplication in our calculator and on a page in our workbook. It's page 39 if you want to go ahead and flip to that. We also are going to, 2 days ago when there was a sub, you started a checkpoint. I have some people, but I don't have others. We're going to make sure we pass that checkpoint today as well. That's our main goal. Those who did turn it in, I've already graded. I'll give those back momentarily. Now, I'm going to appreciate your honesty, and you're actually going to solve your checkpoint without using your calculator. Or at least that's what I hope. It's one phrase, just because you learned the calculator trick, one didn't forget how to do math. But one does not know. We have a lot of math workshops we want to go over first before we get to work on all the things, though. And there are some people who haven't had a chance. Table 5, go down a point. He's on my nerves. There are some people who haven't had a chance to finish their test from the other day, so they're going to get a chance to do that as well. My goal is for Mackenzie to show me her workbook pages done before she leaves the room. That way she has no homework this weekend. But if Mackenzie never finished her test, there's potential that she's going to have to finish the workbook pages for homework because she needs to get that test done. Does anyone have any idea as to why it's so important to get that test done besides you don't want to zero in on now? Well, yeah, I mean, it's a 60% grade. It should be important to you. And anyone else have any thoughts as to why?
First 60%.
It is our first 60%. You can go back to 0. It is our first 60%. But really, the main reason why is as of next week, we're going to learn a little calculator trick that's going to help us with the 3 equations, 3 unknowns, and 4 equations, 4 unknowns. There is a way to solve that kind of thing that we just tested on in our calculator. So in my opinion, once I taught you the trick, you're never going to want to do it by hand the long way again. So we better go ahead and bite the bullet and finish that test before I show you all the tricks of life. Because if you think on that test, if you finally make it up next week sometime and you use the calculator trick, I'm not going to give you the points, because the point from the last test was not, can Seth do this on the calculator? The point from the last test was, can Seth use elimination enough to solve? So, okay, I asked you yesterday to go ahead and do basically the rest of the math workshops. You picked up a math workshop on your way in. On Monday, we're going to go crazy and do even more. We're going to do 1 through 8 on Monday. So if you were trying to get your group points, you would have 1 through 8 done on the next math workshop. Okay, let's go ahead and get going. Number 5. What do I need to use? Addison said it first. Yes? It wasn't you? It was. Who was it? It was a girl's voice. It's Kelsey. You can have the point, Kelsey. Okay, and we get to group it.
Excuse the interruption. All freshmen and sophomores, if you turned in your flu shot permission form, please go to the library at this time.
Okay, what can we...
Flu shot for students, if you turned in your form, go to the library at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
What can we pull out of the first group? 6 what?
6x.
And you can get a point. We will be left with 2x to the second minus 3. What can we pull out of our second term? What can we pull out of our second term? If we pull out a positive or negative x, I'm not going to give you the point. If we pull out a negative x, we would be left with
3x plus 1.
And I'm sad. Why am I sad? They don't match. That does stink. So what are we going to do?
Match them.
But they don't match.
You're gonna pull
Please
it.
fix it.
In the beginning, why didn't we just pull out an X? They don't have X.
Oh, someone who realized we could do something else first. Bless you, you can have 2 points. I thought before we did anything we should do GCF. They all had an x. If we pulled out an x out of everybody, it would be 12x to the 4th minus 18x squared minus 3x plus 1. But there are still 4 terms, so we're still going to have to do grouping. When I do grouping, I still have that x on the outside. I can still factor out a 2, not 2, Mia told me a 6. I can still factor out a 6x squared. And I'll be left with what? And you can have a point. Minus 3. And then in our second group, I'm going to factor out what? There's nothing. I mean, you can factor out a negative 1 and make it 3x minus 1. But we're still back to our issue of they don't match, do they? So we're not able to do grouping. But we were able to do one thing at least. And factor out that x. So we're done. And it's stuck. In fact, if you wanted to leave it before we tried grouping, that would make sense to me. But we at least factored out an x, so it's not a complete waste of a day. And it's funny because Day did it, so Okay, thank you, Day, because I completely forgot GCF as well. That's why you got 2 points. Let's go to number 6. Let's pray that one works out a little nicer. What should we do on number 6? Seth said it first. He gets the point. What are we going to take out? And you're left with x plus 5. You get a point for that. What are we going to take out of the other term?
Negative 3y.
And you're left with
X plus y.
Oh, and this one makes me happy because the parentheses match. So my final answer is 4x minus 3y times x plus 5. Yay! Okay, if I'm questioning my sanity, though, because of how poorly number 5 went, how can I check myself? How can I check? Who said it? Miss Brewster said it. We could FOIL it out to check our answer to make sure we're not crazy. She's allowed. Okay, number 7 is my favorite one of the day. I think it's an easy factor. Why do I think it's an easy factor? What's the leading coefficient? Leading coefficient is going to be the number in front of that, which is 1. Okay, so I don't know who said it, so I'm going to hold it in. So I need 2 things. Because this is a 1, it's easy factoring. So I need 2 things that multiply to 64 and add to negative 16. 8 and what? 8 and 2 multiply to 16, but they don't multiply to 64. 8 and 8. So I'm going to have t minus 8, because that's t squared minus 16, t plus 64 when you FOIL it back out in your head. Absolutely perfect. Do we write it like this? There's a better way to write it. You can have a point, by the way, Hunter. There's a better way to write this. Going once, going twice. Yep, they get the point. Squared. Since there's 2 of them, just write t minus 8 squared. That would be better. Okay, and our last factoring problem of the day is number 8. And I love it as well. I love it because of 144. Yes, Archero.
12 plus u times 12 minus u.
Bless you, and you get a point for that. 144 is a perfect square, so you were supposed to recognize that. 12 squared is 144. If we FOILed this back out, the outer and the inner would be positive 12u, negative 12u, and they would end up canceling out. So he is 100% correct. Okay, are there any questions about 5 through 8? So we have one last problem, and we're finally done with Math Workshops today. Let's look down at the bottom of this cone. This is going to require a little bit of geometry skills. Okay, so there's a cone, and it's got a diameter of 6 feet, which means its radius is 3. That's why they put the 3 down there. And it has a height of 5 feet, with the vertex up is to be partially filled with water through an opening at the vertex. Let me read that again. A cone with a diameter of 6 feet and a height of 5 feet, So my height total is 5. Is to be partially filled with water through an opening at the vertex. So they're going to fill it with water only to, you know how if you go to the water fountain and you have these cones, they're normally not upside down, they're right side up. You don't fill them to the tip top because it'll leak over. And they're talking about they're going to fill it with water to this point. And so they're about to ask us about the volume of just the water they filled, not the entire cone, just the part of the cone they filled with water. Okay, so what is the volume of the water in the cone in terms of the height of the water? Okay, I have a triangle. I have 2 triangles, actually. Let's talk about this giant one first. Has a height of 5 feet. Has a height of 5 feet. Okay, so we have a giant triangle. And it said it had a height of 5 feet, but I really want to put the 5 over here. I don't know why I feel that way. Does anyone know why I feel that way? What am I trying to make it into? There are at least 4 of you who had me from geometry. What on earth is Miss Compton trying to make? It's her favorite thing from geometry.
Triple.
Yeah, I'm trying to make it into a triple. What triple is it?
5, 3, 4.
Yep, and I'll give 2 points, and I'll give 4 1 point. I'm trying to turn it into a 3 4 5. I don't know if y'all learned the triples. I pray you had to memorize them 3 4 5 5 12 13. Okay, so I'm trying to turn it into that, but I might be overthinking my life. So for now, instead, what is the volume? So we need to know the volume of a cone. So does anyone know the formula for volume of a cone? You know, and that's what stinks about the standardized test now, because at least when I took standardized tests, they would give you the volume formulas. I want to say it's 1/3 pi r squared h, but when you don't know, you ask Google.
Little yellow cards.
They're stuck in the box. I'd have to go dig. Let's see. 1/3 base times height. 1/3 pi r squared h. I was not crazy. It's 1/3 pi r squared h. Perfect. I like it when I'm not crazy. Well, that's what is crazy about the ACT now is they expect you to just know volume formulas. For some reason I remember volume of a cone is 1/3. And I mean, I guess since I know the base is a circle, it's supposed to have an R in it. But how on earth they expect you to memorize that kind of crap is beyond me. Okay. So this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we know the radius of the giant cone, but you realize they've made this like tiny cone. I'm trying to circle. Let me zoom out. You realize they put this tiny cone inside our giant one, which is terribly annoying. So, and they're actually wanting to know the volume of the tiny one. So while the radius of the giant one is 3, so you're very tempted to plug in 3 here, that's not the radius of the tiny one. So we learned about something in geometry called similar triangles. So back to maybe I should let go of that. Maybe I should just set up a proportion and cross multiply and start solving stuff. So in my mind, I have to draw it out because I was taught geometry for years. So I think there's a tiny triangle, and it's got an R here, a 5 minus h here, and we don't know what's over there. You can put an X there if you'd like, but I have too many variables in my life. And then we have this giant triangle that we know has a height of 5, although I keep trying to put it on the hypotenuse instead. And we know it has a radius of 3. So literally, I'm thinking about setting up a proportion. With the green triangle, its radius is 3. The pink triangle's radius is r, so 3 divided by r. The green triangle's height is 5. The pink triangle's height is 5 minus h. So I'm thinking about setting up a proportion that's like 3 divided by r equals 5 divided by 5 minus h. I put the 2, I did 3 over r, so green over pink, and then I had to be consistent, so green over pink again. You have to do this a lot in geometry, and sadly enough, do they expect you to recall to do that junk? Yeah, they do. Pains in your tail, I know. You would cross multiply and get 5r equals 3 times 5 minus h. And if we distribute, we would have 5r equals 15 minus 3h. And you're like, Miss Compton, that's lovely what you did there. But that does not help me at all. I still don't know what r is or what h is. Well, I'm thinking about solving for one of the variables and plugging it into our equation. That's my next thought. So back to my whole goal is to plug it in this formula. I know the 1/3 stays the same. I know the pi stays the same. I'm wanting to mess with r, and I'm wanting to mess with h, because r and h in this problem have to be with this tiny cone that I filled in with water. So I know that h is going to be 5 minus h. And I could just put r, but then we've got two variables. So wouldn't it be easier if down here we solved for r, and when we plugged in our top equation, we only had it in terms of h's? So this problem, and I hate to be so blunt, but this problem sucks. Because not only do you have to recall geometry skills, one more
I
time.
apologize for the interruption, but I have a lot of students who turned in your forms for the flu shot that you didn't report to the library. They're waiting on you. Thank you.
Okay. I lost my whole train of thought. ADHD. Okay. So this problem really sucks because not only did you have to remember how to set up a proportion with similar triangles, but now you got to do some substitution crap that you had to learn back in school, table 1, lose a point. So you learned the proportion in geometry, and you learned how to substitute in Algebra 2 with tricks. So they're wanting you to combine both worlds, and you never had a class on how to combine both worlds. And why on earth they put this on our math workshop for a Friday is beyond me. If I reduce that fraction, 15 divided by 5 is 3. I have to leave it as 3/5 h. So God bless our hearts. We're still going to have to deal with a fraction. And if I plug that in, I'm finally going to get to the answer of what is the volume in terms of the height, because now we have an equation with only h's. Was that a pain in our tail? Yes. Am I actually going to solve it out? Heck no, because I don't want to deal with all those fractions. So let's back up and recap for those who are still on Earth with me. They gave us this terrible cone. They said they don't want to know the volume of the whole cone, which would have been lovely because we knew the radius, we knew the height, it would have been a plug and chug. Oh no, they wanted to know the volume of the tiny part of the cone that you filled up with water. So instead, you had to use similar triangles, set up a proportion, solve for r, and then plug in that value for r into the volume formula, just so the volume equation would all be in terms of height. Do I honestly think Mia could set this up and do this on her own on the ACT? No, and it took us way too long, as is. But if Mia recalls it's 1/3 and there should be a pi, that's going to eliminate one of the answer choices. And then if she's smart enough to think through the 5 minus h, that's going to eliminate at least 2 more. So she's down to a 50-50 guess, and she's not actually shown any math like we did. So I think she could guess her way into the answer, but as to working it out on a Friday, not so much. That was a rough one. The good news is the rest of the day is going to be easy from here on out. I just need you to work on your workbook. If I